look, we're going to put the disclaimer. If you stayed up and you watched this Japan race, kudos to you. We promise you it's going to be a lot better in Bahrain. Bahrain
and
is
it's at a decent time.
Yeah, and it's at a decent time. Bahrain is one of the most fun tracks. You can race it in the game. If you see a race in real life, trust me, it is a great track. You will see a lot of overtaking. We don't want people to be scared off from watching this race because of what happened last weekend in Japan. That was an outlier.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Around the Circuit episode of Polymedia's Formula One crew. As always, I'm Junior, joined by Mark and Ivan. We're here to talk about Supermax winning the Japanese Grand Prix.
Max Verstappen.
There it is. I fucking love it. My boy won. The race was very uneventful, almost a snooze fest. We could talk about the one big event that happened between Max and Lando and then the few midfield fights. But overall, you hate to say it was kind of boring, but it kind of was. Max finished first, as always, after setting, per F1 article, a godlike pole lap in qualifying.
Track record for sure.
Yeah, set the track record and took pole. And at the end of qualifying, didn't have a single purple sector. Don't ask me how he did it, but he did it. And he took off from first, finished in first for the race. He had Lando behind him. I think Lando was 1.5 seconds behind him in second. And then Oscar not far after that in P3 to wrap up the podium. I was close on my predictions, this close. I had Oscar winning and Max finishing P3 with Lando in P2, but hey, it is what it is. Max won. I won't be mad about being wrong on my predictions there. But, yeah, guys, uneventful race. Lando turned his car into a lawnmower for a little bit. What were y'all's key takeaways from the Japanese Grand Prix, if any?
As you can see, I got a blanket because of what a snooze fest. What a snooze fest. It was a boring race. I'm going to take this off and not keeping that on for the whole episode. But yeah, it was a snooze fest. I mean, yeah, very boring race. Max started on pole, ended on the first. I as soon as he got pole, I was like, it's over.
Yeah.
Nobody's winning. At the end, Lando was close, but I think they, long before it settled for second and third, and it just wasn't good. Oscar maybe had the pace to overtake Lando, maybe fight for first, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it was a very, very uneventful race. I think the leading overtake amount was 4 for like the whole race, and I forgot who it even was by who did the 4 overtake.
I know Lewis overtook Isaac in like the first 10 laps.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest overtakes we saw the whole race.
Yeah, that was like that. And I know we saw the Alonso-Gasly fight at lap 1. That looked like it was on the edge, and Alonso was like, I'm not giving up this spot, but yeah, for the most part, it was an uneventful race. It kind of gave you like a little bit of a key onto what's going to go on throughout the rest of the season. I will say, I don't know what the odds of this happening throughout the rest of the season are, though, but back-to-back tracks with a fresh repaving has shown that pretty much stops any overtaking, apparently.
Yeah.
I hope at Bahrain, a track that obviously we've been to many, many years now, and it's a track that a lot of the drivers know. We'll talk about it later. For me, I expect a lot of rookies to do good because this is the one track they've gotten a lot of experience at besides like maybe a Barcelona. So I do expect that for the next week's race, but keeping it on Japan. Yeah, let's maybe not repave 2 racetracks back to back in the same year.
I mean, they only repaved the first sector, and there was a chance of rain, so they were hoping that the rain. Some were hoping for the rain, some were hoping it wouldn't come.
Yeah.
I know even during the drivers' parade, I was watching it, and they were doing recon on the track at that moment. So because you could tell it was still wet in some spots, but it was drying fast. Even during their interviews, they were talking about, I'm watching the track. And there was nothing, man. I mean, like I said, minus Lewis and then minus Fernando fighting in the midfield with, Gasly and the few overtakes that happened, in the middle of the pack, there wasn't a lot of action. There was almost an overtake coming out of the pits. Like I said, I mentioned Lando turned his car into a lawnmower, and that was like the biggest thing, we saw happen the whole race. So, but I will say, overall, I mean, I think they said 1 through 6 finished where they qualified, which is nuts.
Yeah.
I think 1 through 10 were where they were minus Lewis and Isaac swapping.
Yeah,
P7
I believe
and
so.
P8. So my question for y'all is, where do we see moving forward? Was this a track specific thing, or do we see Max winning more races? Do we think Red Bull started to figure it out? Do we think McLaren pulled a Ferrari and just screwed away their strategy and, like Mark said, settled for second and third before the race even began? I mean, there was that little moment where Oscar said, hey, let's go. You know, more or less he said, hey, let's go, because Lando was, according to the team principal, Andrea Stella, said he was saving his tires to hopefully take a run at Max. And then after Oscar said something like, hey, you know, you're holding me up. I got the pace. Can we swap? They said, no. Just sit tight in third. I mean, what do we think moving forward from Japan when it comes to the Red Bull and the McLaren fight? Is it just Max being Max, or do we think the car might have something finally?
I think regardless of the car, Max is going to do good. Max is fast in general. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can put him in any car. He's going to get something out of it. But, yeah, I think regardless, Max is going to be Max. I think he will win a couple of races. But, obviously, the McLaren's very fast. Both of the drivers are talented. But if McLaren keeps settling for second and third, or maybe even fourth or fifth, if it comes down to it, if somehow Ferrari makes a comeback, you're only going to be fighting for a Constructors' Championship, when in reality you should be fighting for both with both of the drivers that you have.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, yeah, like I said, Max will definitely win some more races, and if McLaren doesn't get their shit together and start competing for first and second like they should be, it can definitely get bad in terms of the Drivers' Championship.
I think on that point, it's only 3 races in. We still have 18 more to go. So it's a long season, but how soon does McLaren need to say, hey, this is our driver for this year? You know, we both know their 2 number 1 driver strategy, and my opinion, I said it last week, I think Oscar had been stronger in the first few races. It was hard to say because he did look like he had the pace, but then as soon as he said something, Lando pushed and picked it up, and he got within, I think, like 9/10 of Max, but they just couldn't catch Max. I think on that track, it was just with the repaving, like Ivan mentioned, it was hard for them to take care of their tires in a track that is really hard on tire deck as it is, and still push to hopefully catch him when he sat comfortably at a 1.5 lead for the majority of the race.
For me, I feel like it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B on this situation. Because one of the biggest and weirdest things I saw was we were talking about what Sector 1 got repaved and everything. In qualifying, Piastri was like 0.3 down in Sector 1. He still found a way to finish within a 10 for 2 of pole position. Something was going on with that repaving in Sector 1 that blended very, very well with that Red Bull, because that's where Max was finding a lot of time. That in Sector 3. That Sector 3 he had was amazing in qualifying. We've seen it before him do that at Monaco, though. He knows a way to finish a lap very, very strong. But for McLaren, though, I feel like both sides are waiting. I feel like the team is waiting for one of them to take the place. And I feel like the drivers are waiting on one of them to like say, no, I'm not going to let the other by, so they can start taking the gloves off and say, oh, he didn't let me by, so now the gloves are off. Everybody's waiting on everybody to react to McLaren, and it's costing them right now where, all right, we need to figure out if somebody is leading in qualifying, because that's what it seems like McLaren is doing right now. If somebody's leading qualifying, they're the lead driver for the entire weekend. They got to change that. You got to make it to where who's the fastest on track. Just because someone had a great hot lap, we've seen it with, you know, the RBs like earlier this season. They can qualify really well, but they don't have the race pace, so they can't stay in their positions. They're the reason they're one of the few teams that got passed. So, yeah, they need to figure out if they have a chance, let each other by. We saw it with Hamilton and Leclerc in China. Hamilton said, let him by. Let's see what he's got. They let him by, and if they said if they had to, they'll make the switch back. I didn't see the issue with that because it seemed like Lando was just trying to buy time, and he didn't have a lot of time. I was waiting because he was 1.3 seconds? I felt like Lando was at 1.3 seconds away from Max for like a good 30 laps.
Long time.
Yeah.
I think I think it was about 10 laps from the last 10 laps is when Lando really started to push. And for the most part, it was like I said, it was a snooze fest. But that last 10 laps, my anxiety kicked in because I was like, okay, Lando's pushing. Can Max keep the lead? You know, we don't know what the Red Bull has or the White Bull as it was this weekend, but those last 10 laps was when he really pushed, and he still only got within 7 or 8, 9, 10 seconds, 9 tenths of a second from Max. So, I mean, it's hard because there wasn't a lot of overtake opportunities in that track at Suzuka. So is it just a track? Like I said, I take it as kind of a track specific thing. If we go into Bahrain and we see, okay, there's certain areas where McLaren is still struggling. You know, Lando's been pretty open where he thinks the car isn't perfect. Yeah. And everyone's like, dude, you got a rocket ship. Shut up and drive. Yeah. Oscar has said, hey, the car is what it is. I'm going to drive it. Two different mentalities going into the car, but they're still P2 and P3, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. I think we take it's still early. We take another couple races. We got Bahrain and then Jeddah to finish the triple header. I think after this triple header, we might have a better idea.
Yeah, and I think a big tell also is the two teams that change the most on their cars seem to be the teams that are struggling to figure out what their pace is. That's Ferrari and McLaren. Yeah. Ironically, the teams that finished 1 and 2 last year in the constructors standings, they've changed the most, and there seem to be the two teams that are trying to figure out what's going on with their car, whereas teams who just made subtle improvements, kind of like an RB, Red Bull, and other teams like that. Mercedes just made a general improvement too. Yeah. It seems like that's looks good. Yeah, they look really, really good this year. It seems to be working better for them. I would like to see what happens in Bahrain because that's first off, it's going to be the first night race of the season, so that's a totally different element. All the races have been during the daytime. I don't think, besides that one session this year that was random during testing, it's ever rained at a Bahrain race. So we should be clear on rain and weather over there.
I spent 7 months deployed to Bahrain. I seen rain one day, and that was towards the end in the fall. Yeah, so you're not gonna get much rain out there.
Yeah, it doesn't rain too often out there, and then you don't know what you're gonna see because normally that is a good track for Mercedes as well. So I feel like you still got a little bit of tells, and still not everybody's giving their full hand away for the season. I do think that, like we said, some teams are gonna have to make moves now. Because even though it's a long season, we saw last year with Ferrari when they had their bad spell starting in Canada, you can't have like too many bad weekends in a row before it starts catching up with you in this sport. And for me, it seems like, because Red Bull has been bragging about it all this week too, we're going after the Drivers' Championship. We want Max to get his 5th title. Yep. McLaren, for some reason, is hell-bent on keeping the constructors, and that's their number one priority right now. Yeah. And I don't know – I know, obviously, you want the whole team and everybody and all the track staff to be rewarded for their hard work with the Constructors' Championship. But at the end of the day, the one you get the most notoriety for is the Drivers' Championship. Yeah. I think McLaren has to really wake up and say, do we really want to give our drivers the best chance to win the Constructors? Do we want to give them the best chance to win the Drivers' Championship? You got to let them go at it. I mean, Bahrain is a place where we've seen Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton go at it. We've seen, Checo and Max a couple years ago finish 1-2 over there, and they had a good battle over there. We've seen teammates battle in Bahrain.
Max.
Yeah.
Had a good Charles and Max battle there in Bahrain.
Yeah, I'm waiting for this track because this is a good track for overtakes. There's plenty of DRS zones. There's slow speed corners, high speed corners. You've got a little bit of everything at this track. So I don't want to move forward too much to Bahrain, but at the same time, like with Japan, it's such a weird sport where a lot of the historical tracks that are the most popular in the sport tend to sometimes have some stinker of races.
I saw a clip yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, where it was a compilation of some of the drivers, reactions post-race. And there was a lot of them said the same thing we said, man, that was boring. Man, that sucked. It was boring. Was there even any overtakes? Some of them didn't even see the overtakes because of where they were. It was lonely out there because there was such gaps in between some of the drivers where it was just them for 53 laps and they didn't see anybody,
And a new tire compound too. That just popped in my head. We had a brand new tire compound, which apparently didn't degrade at all because after everybody put on that new tire compound, everybody was like, "All right, I can stay out here."
Hards were
they were way
the same, if not better, than the mediums. It was weird.
Yeah,
but so with McLaren and the Red Bull fight kind of there with Mercedes and Ferrari peeking their head every now and then. Do we expect better from our driver of the day? So Yuki did win driver of the day. He had a poor qualifying, which set him. I think he qualified at what P15.
15. Yep.
And then after Carlos's penalty, he ended up starting P12. Do we expect, and then he got caught in the traffic.
Yeah.
He couldn't do much. Do we expect him to be better and the Red Bull car to actually start performing? I mean, I know we kind of touched on it where Max is going to do what Max does, but I think if we move into a track like Bahrain and Jeddah and Yuki can pull out of the car, maybe Red Bull's been sandbagging a little bit and they've just been kind of hiding their cards and they expect more out of the car. Mark, what are you thinking?
I mean, yeah, like you said, with these upcoming tracks, I definitely think Yuki. I mean, I said it last week, and this week, he did all right.
Yeah.
Considering the circumstances, but I think definitely coming up to Bahrain and Jeddah, I mean, I definitely think he could do even better, especially like this upcoming week, like you said, with the track and how familiar they are with him. I think he can definitely get a good result, and but it's gonna be tough. I think it will be tough for the rest of the season if the car doesn't improve. I think Max will definitely improve, just like I said, how Max is. But I think over the season we could see Yuki struggle. But I honestly think Yuki will bring the best out of this situation in car.
Mm-hmm.
I mean this with the utmost respect, and this is going to sound like a dig, but I'll explain how it's not. To me, Yuki had a Checo kind of weekend. And what I mean by that is where Checo would do good in practice, and then it came to qualifying, he would make one mistake, and that would just kill you, and he would do that. But that is still an improvement from the Liam weekends we just had the past 2 weeks where he was finishing P20, not even getting high in practice, and you could see the improvements. That's what I wanted to see from Yuki. Like I said, I didn't mean it as an insult, but Checo was really, really good in practice, and he would just do one mistake that would cost him, and it would just spiral down and roll over and hurt his whole weekend, and that's what happened with Yuki. He did qualify behind Liam, but at the same time, he passed him on lap 1. And as you can see, there wasn't a lot of overtakes in this race. So to be able to pass someone up on lap 1 must mean you're either a better driver or you're in a better car. In this situation, I think it's both. And also, Liam did not have a great weekend despite beating Yuki. That was probably his one highlight of the weekend.
That was his only highlight. He
Hajar,
P17.
Yeah, Hajar just has been so impressive this season. I know he had some competitive times with Yuki, but I think that's another thing people haven't been thinking about with the switch. I mean, they switched cars, so that is Yuki's car that he was driving all these weeks, and he was able to finish ahead of Hajar, who's a rookie. Mm-hmm. Liam couldn't even sniff the points, and, I mean, he was, like I said, he's a veteran of this sport now. He's been in there for, I know, only 13 races, but it's over 2 seasons, so he's been around this. Liam did not have a very good weekend. For me, Yuki is going to just improve. He really does good when we go to the Middle East for some reason. I know he does great in Abu Dhabi. He's had some good finishes in Saudi Arabia. I know he's had great finishes as well in Bahrain. So I expect him to do good at this track, a track he's familiar with. I wasn't disappointed in Yuki. I know he's probably disappointed in himself with the results. But, I mean, you got to factor in, like we were talking about last week. I mean, home race. Honda's last home race with your team now. Yeah. I mean, that was immense pressure. Honestly, bringing the car home in one piece was enough for me. I'm like, okay, you finished almost close enough to the points. You weren't like P17. You didn't stay stagnant and stay P15. So, yeah, I think he'll improve as the weeks go on. I would say probably within the next 2 weeks, hopefully this week, but probably within the next 2 weeks, he gets his first points as like a Red Bull driver, and then everybody forgets about what happened in Japan. So.
And then just to kind of note, you mentioned, finishing the race in Honda, in Japan. So it's Honda's home race, their last race in collab with Red Bull. Max wins. Yuki finished P12, so it was a decent finish for him. He finished the race at least. In those Honda colors, I think that was probably the best, other than maybe having Yuki, finish P2. That was the best weekend Honda could have asked for.
Yeah.
Especially with those colors. But you mentioned Isaac Hajar, and he's not the only rookie that has continued to impress me. I mean, obviously, Kimi is just killing it out there. Yeah. I think Kimi finished, let me see. Kimi finished P6. Isaac finished P8. And then you had Ollie finishing, Mark's boy Ollie finishing P10. So I will say, it's one race. It's too early to ask. But I'm going to ask it anyways. Was Red Bull right about Lawson? Lawson dropped down to P17. I don't remember where he qualified at. He finished, what, P15?
Yeah.
Qualifying? So let's see.
Well, he finished P14 because Yuki was 15.
P14, yeah. P14, and he finished the race at P17. So he didn't have a great race. Isaac qualified high, finished high. The kid bounced back from his terrible week 1 race, and these last 2 races has looked great, especially in a Racing Bulls, finishing P8. I mean, he qualified ahead of Lewis.
Yeah.
Granted, he didn't last, but
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the question, was Red Bull right about Liam? And do we expect Liam to stick around the rest of the season? Or is he going to come under pressure? You know, like I said, it's early, and it's hard to ask that question after 1 race after the swap. But I want to ask it because
I don't blame you. It needs to be asked, but yeah, it's kind of early. But I agree. I'll let Mark go first. But yeah, it's not a bad timing on the question, though.
It's disappointing. I mean, even last week, I tried to give Liam props, the benefit of the doubt. You know, I did celebrate him losing that seat. But, you know, I still believe in Liam. I like Liam. I think he's a good driver. But unfortunately, this week was just not good. Like you said, that car is still Yuki's car. And Yuki was still doing good in that car. And the fact that you went in the first race, and like I said, it's the first race that he's back in the Racing Bulls. It was disappointing. Will he? I think he'll finish with them. I think he'll get better results. But, yeah, I think he'll finish with them. But, yeah, it was a disappointing first race back with the Racing Bulls.
Yeah, especially because all people kept saying about this week with the switch to try to, you know, reason as to why it shouldn't happen is you should have given him one more race. It's going to Suzuka, a track he's raced at in Super Formula, a track that Lawson is very familiar with, and he had maybe one of his worst races of the season because at least in Australia you could say it was raining. In China you could say it's a track you're not used to. This is a track you've won, you know, you've won races at before in Super Formula and fought for championships in Super Formula. You know this track like the back of your hand. I know it's a different car, but at the same time, this should be one of your stronger races. And for him not to do that has me really thinking that the rumors about Red Bull calling a bluff on Liam and his team saying, all right, you want to threaten and say you're going to, you know, go to another team if we don't give you a spot at Red Bull. Fine, we'll give you your wish. We'll throw you in the Red Bull. See how it goes. Mm-hmm. And I'm really starting to think is honestly what happened now. I think that's the reason why maybe Yuki didn't get his promotion as fast as he's deserved, because now it definitely seems like obviously he did deserve it despite what Helmut Marko's trying to throw everybody under the bus but himself this week, it seems like. I do think that Liam's going to have better races this year, but I do think that change was warranted. I know it's only one race, but for him not to do great at a track he's very familiar with did not do him any favors. We all have friends like this, that somebody you're like, you root for, you're friends with, but man, you don't do yourself any favors by some of the decisions you make. And that's the way I felt about Liam since he entered the sport. Man has not done himself any favors, especially in a sport like F1 that's so multicultural. To have like half of like the Spanish speakers in this grid against you already in a sport like this, like that was probably not the best decision. You already had people against you. Like you have Brazil, Argentina, Spain. How many different Spanish-speaking countries did he?
Mexico.
Mexico. He's pissed off.
The big one.
Really fast.
The big one.
Like name a Spanish-speaking country, and he's probably pissed him off already. So he didn't do himself any favors. I think he's going to do better. Like Mark said, we're rooting for him. We're not rooting against any driver, but at the same time, when you don't do yourselves any favors, I'm not exactly going to shed a tear when you're not doing great. So yeah,
I'm rooting against one driver. You got that wrong.
Oh, that is true.
There's only one more point I'll add to Liam's situation is hopefully he does better for his sake. Hopefully he performs a little more in the Racing Bulls. But if he doesn't, and I haven't seen anything since last week in that one article that I sent y'all, if the rumors are true and Red Bull manages to buy out Colapinto's contract and put him in a Racing Bull, look, man, I was a Franco truther last season. He had some great races at the beginning. Yeah, towards the end he kind of had some mishaps here and there, but I would not be mad to see Colapinto in a Racing Bulls. That's where I'll leave that because I gotta bring out the pedestal. I gotta let Mark step up on his soapbox here for a second and talk about his boy Ollie, because Ollie finished P10. He's been hyping up Ollie all season. We expect Ollie to have a great rookie season, but
in a Haas?
P10 with the Honda livery. I mean, not the Honda livery, the special livery for Japan.
I was elated. I saw Ollie moving up. I was at P10.
Hold on, let me double check it. Ocon finished P18. His teammate.
Ollie's him. Ollie's him.
I had to give you the moment.
We
'cause-
saw it last year when he replaced Carlos.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I knew right there. I was like, oh, Ollie's gonna be that guy, and he showed it this race, finishing P10. When, like you just said, Ocon finished P18.
in a Haas.
I think Ollie Behrman would have many more good races this season. Obviously, it just depends on how the Haas will be.
Yeah.
But yeah, great race for Ollie Behrman. I was very happy with it.
That pink and white livery gave him some superpowers.
Yeah, bro, the new, both of them for Max and him.
Yeah. The special liveries performed this weekend. Ivan, your rookie, I will say that you want to highlight right now. Who do you got?
I mean, you kind of got to go with Antonelli at this point, man.
There it is.
Antonelli is like been one of the most consistent drivers. I mean, I saw a video this week and I couldn't believe it. There was a video of Antonelli with his high school classmates and them going over like highlights from his race.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this dude's in class still. Has to go from class to go to practice and go to the track weekends.
Not to interrupt you, but I
Yeah.
saw a TikTok, and there was a girl from, and you could tell she's in high school, and she goes, "Oh, the caption said when your classmate is an F1 driver."
Yeah.
And it was in Italian, but you understood what it said. And then she flips the camera around, and Kimmy's just sitting there in his high school class, bro. It's just like
He was in science
hanging
class.
out.
Yeah.
This poor guy, school must be hell for him.
Well, he has said, he's been working on his schedule with the races to try to do his finals to test out of school.
Yeah.
And so
It's crazy when you see videos like that and think about how young he is. And I know he's in a good car, but still, to be putting up performances like this, for me, Antonelli has been, if not the Rookie of the Year, in the running for it. For me, based on the cars they're in for Rookie of the Year, I would put Ali and Hajar above. I can't tell about that's the hard thing about telling about the Red Bull Junior team is that I can't tell if that car is great or if that car is just so much simpler to drive than the Red Bull that any driver can hop in that car and just put in performances. That's why low-key my conspiracy theory is I just want them to say, Max, go in that car just for 1 week. Just for 1 week and see what happens, man. Let's just see the comparison's sake and see what happens. But yeah, like all these rookies have been doing good. It's every couple years you see like a new generation step up and you're like, oh, that's the future. You saw it with Charles when he was at Alfa Romeo. You're like, oh, no, that dude's got something. He's putting Alfa Romeo in there. That's kind of what I see out of Ollie. It's like, he's putting a car that doesn't deserve to be in the position it's in into the points. I know Haas had some changes that they kind of rushed through, which I've never heard Haas rushing an upgrade like they did this weekend with their floor, especially as if you know anything about F1, the floor is like legitimately, if not the most important, one of the most important parts of the car. And for you to rush an upgrade like that, Ocon did not have a great weekend. And Ocon's a veteran that's won a race before. He's been in the sport for a long time. Obviously, had multiple podiums. So for him to be performing so well against a guy that, a lot of people consider a good midfield driver in Ocon, he's been impressing, like I said, with Hajar. But Kimmy's just, for me, been on a different level just because he's been able to keep up with George Russell. George Russell this year has been the epitome of consistency. This man will somehow qualify P4 or P5 and still be in the running for a podium if there's no passes on track like we saw this week. He was legit just waiting. Honestly, if Lando stays straight for a couple more minutes and doesn't save it coming out of the pit stop.
He goes into the wall and
George
inherits another
podium. You'll have a George Russell podium all over again. That's the same thing. Honestly, that's what I kind of feel like Charles has been doing the past couple weeks. He's just been like, you know what? I'm going to sit here and wait for somebody to mess something up, and they haven't. But you would, like I said earlier this season, I thought the rookies were going to be the ones that would make mistakes going early in the year. They've been pretty impressive. It definitely seems like this youth movement's been warranted. I want to see a little bit more from, throughout the entire season, how they do at different tracks. Like, for example, Singapore is one of the hardest tracks to race at in all of Formula One just because of the temperatures and everything like that. Qatar is similar. When they have to really test their bodies, I'll exclude Hajar. We don't want to talk about what Hajar had to go through this weekend, but man, Hajar went through it this weekend, brother. Yeah, Hajar went through it. If you didn't see, he had some malfunctionings with his seat belts. Let's just say, and his seat. The seat was loose. The seat belt was too tight. It was snuggling up on some stuff you don't want snug. So just trust us when we say that man was pushing it. So we'll give him a pass. But yeah, when they get into tougher races, I want to see how they perform. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe not Ollie, but if if somebody makes the podium this year, like Hajar or Kimi, I wouldn't be surprised. Even Hajar and RB. So
I fully expect to see Kimi and on a podium this season at some point. It'll probably take some crazy double McLaren DNF because they're fighting, or Max does Max things and becomes a terrorist and takes somebody out or something like that. But I will say I saw a clip today, and Kimi said that this was his most comfortable race so far because he was able to explore and play with the car. To have that kind of confidence 3 races in, granted, like you said, it's a great car to start in compared to Duhan in an Alpine or Gabby, the F2 champion, in a Kick Sauber.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he's got that advantage, but I mean, just the confidence just coming off of him is just
youngest driver to lead a race now in Formula One.
Yep, took what was it? It was another record he took from Max for the youngest driver. I can't remember what it was.
Fastest lap.
Fastest lap.
Yeah,
youngest
fastest
driver
lap.
to hold fastest lap because he did finish the race with fastest lap. So I mean, I fully expect the podium coming up. Talking about Alpine though, Duhan has struggled, but so is Pierre. Alpine is the only team right now, 3 races in, to have no points. When I saw them take a double podium, granted there was red flags and everything that kind of played into it, but they took that double podium behind Max in Brazil last year, and they looked like at the end of the year they were starting to turn things around to hopefully lead in something. And Ivan talked about it at the beginning of the season, our season preview, that he fully expected Alpine to be up there. 3 races in, they have no points when teams like Williams are
Sauber.
Sauber have points. Williams is exceeding all expectations. I mean, is there a worry for Alpine? And Ivan, I'll let you talk about it because that's your team.
Yeah.
I was about to say, let Ivan go. I mean, he's got this.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pull out the Renault flag for this one for sure. Oh, my God. So this is the name they should have never changed from in the first place. So, yeah, for me, Alpine's biggest problem has been the same problem. It's a bad problem when it's the same way in the Formula One video game. That engine has been a problem for them for like the past 8 years. If you play the Formula One video game, you'll know what I mean. But if you can pick from all the engine suppliers like Red Bull or Mercedes and all of them, if you click the Alpine engine, it has like 8 less horsepower than anybody else. It is the slowest engine on the entire track. And this season, and especially this weekend at Suzuka, you saw it. A lot of people were saying that their new engine that they were building for the new regulations was going to be better, and they shut down those engine projects because now they're switching to Mercedes. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that's a smart call. Whoever's been making these engines for the past 8 years, I don't want to give them another shot to even cook spaghetti. Like, don't do anything for me. You've had your chance, brother. Like, you had your chance. You've already messed up enough. I understand that the hard work that's been put in, and a lot of people are, at risk of having to be moved to different positions and everything. But it's kind of like if you keep doing the same thing over and over again for me at Alpine, you got to make changes. The wreck with doing this past weekend for me, I can't believe the reason. I know I've heard rumors that he was testing something that worked in the simulator and seeing
playing video games in real life.
Yeah, the rumor going around is that normally when the DRS that opens up the back wing that makes the car faster, it's supposed to close when you press the brakes. But going into turn 1 at Japan, you don't really press the brakes. You kind of just slow down. Yeah, you manually have to turn it off. So for some reason, at a team where you already know your boss hates you. This is like coming in to work on a day when your boss is heated and you're like, I'm going to be 20 minutes late, by the way. This is kind of pretty much what Doohan did for me. It's like, bro, you can't be taking any extra risks because your boss already wants to put another driver in Colapinto in there or anybody to get you out of there because you are not his driver. So for me, why would you take that risk on something that worked in the simulator?
When I saw the crash, I was like, man, that looked like it hurt. I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
But then you see the reason, like you said.
Yeah, and it's like, and he was hurting throughout the weekend. I don't know if you saw the video clip that's been going around today of him getting out of the car.
He was limping.
Ocon had to help him out of the car pretty much to finish the race.
And it's weird that Alpine, now that that's circulating, Alpine hasn't really released a statement on it. I'm assuming he's okay. Maybe he was just sore. And he did say that, the next day he was feeling it a little bit, but it was race day. He couldn't, couldn't do what he had to do. But
they said that wreck was the equivalent of 50 Gs.
So I think the last time we saw a wreck like that was
Max and Lewis.
Max and Silverstone in 2021.
Yep.
Yeah.
Max and Lewis in that wreck. That was the last time we saw a wreck that hard. And you could tell he was shaken up when he got out of the car. But it's like, for me, it's like we talked about with the rookies earlier. You tell the rookies, hey, just bring the car home in one piece, then we can build up from there. It's kind of like what Kimmy's been doing, and the reason he had a good chance to have a good weekend this weekend is because he was in front in clean air. He could do whatever he wants.
Absolutely.
He had the freedom to finally do testing. That's when you can. Or if you have a bigger gap because you're farther back in the field, you can do that. You don't do that turn one into Suzuka at one of the fastest corners in all of F1, trying to test out a theory that worked out in the simulator. And maybe if other drivers who have been in the sport maybe for like 20 years possibly, like Fernando and Lewis, aren't doing it, maybe you shouldn't do it. I don't know where the logic came from. Like, Doohan is not a bad driver, but this decision making by him has not been great. Gasly hasn't even been having that great of a year, to be honest, either. He's been having to fight for life and death trying to get that car even to P10.
Man, cut his hair for nothing.
It's just been a rough year for them. And it's for me, like, so the reason I'm even an Alpine fan is because I am a Gasly fan. He's one of my drivers who I thought he should have got another chance at Red Bull. So I followed him over here, and it's been one of the most painstaking processes I've ever gone through my life trying to be an Alpine fan. I can tell you this from experience. That's why I have like this flag right here with the Renault flag. I feel like back then when Danny Rick drove for this team in Renault, they were one of the most potent teams in the midfield, and somehow they've gone down. That's the reason they bought Flavio back to begin with. But yeah, they have nowhere to go but up. I can't wait till they get the new engines, but I honestly don't expect Doohan to make it to the end of the year. I just think there's too much pressure. I just think they're not going to be like Williams was with Logan and give him the benefit of the doubt. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
They have too many reserve drivers to keep letting him do.
They got one less now. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did.
News.
He moved over to Haas.
Yeah, that was a very.
It was funny to see that he did FP1 with Alpine. In his home race. Is it Hirakawa?
Yeah, Hirakawa.
Hirakawa, and then today he announces, "Oh, I'm with Haas now as a reserve driver." Good for him. Maybe he gets another shot. You know, if something happens. Alpine is clogged right now with reserve drivers.
Yeah.
But my last point I will mention on Japan, just because we're coming up on time, we got to give our predictions for Bahrain real quick. But my Williams is back agenda is still alive. And believe it or not, it's 3 races in, thanks to Alex, not Carlos. Yep. I love Carlos. He's one of my favorite drivers to watch. And he had a better weekend this weekend, even with the stomach bug and getting fined for being late because, as Dutton put it,
that was a BS. That's a BS
stupid.
too, by the way.
That was a very expensive poo.
You're right, exactly.
But away from that, I got to give my kudos to Alex Albon because he finished P9, and it's his third straight race in points in a Williams. Something's clicking, not just in Williams, but with him. And so before we get away from Japan, I had to give him his flowers. I like Albon. I think, he didn't really get a fair shot at Red Bull. And then he still, his iconic scream when Max won in 2021. I love it. I don't know. It's just he's a fun racer to watch, in my opinion. And he always gets along with his partners, his teammates. He's just a fun guy.
Yeah. I did have a question for you, actually, Junior.
What's up?
So the news that did come out today, I can't hold this back anymore. Honda and Max are doing something behind the scenes that is going to shake up this sport that I feel like people need to be prepared for.
There was a lot of sly comments from both Max and Honda over the weekend, it being Honda's home race, that makes you wonder, maybe Aston Martin is a favorite to sign Max into the new regulations, 2026, 2027.
Especially for Fernando Alonso stinking it up. Father time is calling, buddy. It's called before you push through, but brother, it's at your front door.
He's fighting it off right now with one arm on the driver's steering wheel right now, Fernando. I feel like he's trying to come to grips with the car. The big news for me that I saw was, obviously with Max and everybody talking about Max saying, I want to continue my relationship with Red Bull or with Honda. Honda saying we would love to work with Max again sometime in the future. And then the news comes out today that Honda will have say-so in the driver lineup for next year, which is something that Aston Martin has pretty much held close to the vest until after Suzuka, which I find that timing very, very suspicious.
And, we talked about last week, is there a chance Max leaves? I don't know if he leaves next year. I think, like you said, he gives it a shot in a Red Bull for 1 year. 2026, see what they have, see what the new regulations and all. But, it's very possible that he goes where the Honda engines are. He loves Honda, man. They love him. we'll see. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see in the next few years. But going into Bahrain, podium predictions. It's a track that has a lot of overtake opportunities. There was a lot of overtakes last year. It's usually the season opener, but it's race 4 now and part of a triple header. I won't say McLaren is going anywhere, so I think Oscar is going to have a chip on his shoulder. I know I predicted Oscar to win last week, but I think he's going into this week with a chip on his shoulder. He had that little sly comment in the last lap where Lando went off on like the final turn, and he was like, "Oh, cheeky," because he couldn't. He had the opportunity to swap, and they didn't let him do it. I think Oscar's going to get fed up soon if something doesn't, and he's going to use that as motivation. So I'm going to predict I'll predict an Oscar win. Max P2, because I think Max is getting comfortable in the Red Bull. It's probably not comfortable for Yuki yet, and it's probably not comfortable for anybody else you put in that damn car. But Max is getting comfortable. He found something this weekend, and we know Max can build on that. And I'm going to go... Man, I don't want to say it because I think it's still too early. But dare I say a Kimi P3? I think something's going to happen with all the overtaking. Something's going to happen, and we know Lando is not good under pressure when it comes to that. He has gotten better. He says he knows what he's got to do going into more fights. He really hasn't had a lot of fighting opportunities these first few races. So going into a track where there's going to be a chance that he goes wheel to wheel with somebody, maybe something happens. I'm not saying he's going to DNF, but I don't think he's going to finish podium. And I think Kimi, getting as comfortable and as confident as he is, has a chance at his first podium. I might be completely off and crazy, but I'm going to say Oscar wins, Max takes P2 because Max is Max in the Red Bull, and then Kimi gets his first podium as a rookie.
This is tough.
What do you got, Mark?
I'll go with Max and P2.
Max P2?
I think he's gonna get more comfortable in the car. P3, I'll go Oscar. P1, Charles Leclerc.
Think Charles comes back? I don't know, man. The Ferrari has seemed like they're still trying to figure out their car. I don't know. Something's off where they're just not there yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
and I was gonna say, Ferrari not a bad weekend. I mean, considering last weekend what happened, we don't talk about it. We're not gonna talk about it. But yeah, decent bounce back. Leclerc was in 4th for a while, just sitting like 10 seconds behind or something like that. But yeah, I think he'll bounce back just knowing Leclerc.
Okay.
Obviously, and I think he'll get the win.
Okay, Ivan.
Let's see. I'll go for P3. I'll go Charles Leclerc. P2, I'll go Max. And then P1, I'll go Oscar. I do think this is a track that Ferrari normally does good at this track. Mm-hmm. They did good here in testing. They've done here well in the past. I think, didn't Ferrari have a 1-2 with Charles and Carlos a couple years ago at Bahrain too? It's a track they've done good at. I think that Charles is starting to find his way with the car. It's taken him a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing the streak continue because I don't know if people have noticed. We've had a different winner in every single race, including a sprint race that we've had this year. We haven't had a consecutive winner yet, so I don't know which of the 3 winners so far. We've had 4 if you want to count the sprint race. Some people do, some people don't. I count it. We raced it.
I count it. Hey,
we raced it. It's a race to me,
it's
happened.
I definitely count it.
Yeah. Shit. Trust me, as Ferrari fans, we count that. That thing counted. So, yes, I do think that it's going to be a better bounce-back weekend. I honestly wanted to put Lewis in 3rd, but I think Charles has been making so much improvements over the past weeks that I think he's going to get the P3 spot. Lando really, really seems to be struggling with this car right now.
Something's off.
I don't know if it's the aero changes that they did because of the new regulations that are coming up in Barcelona. I don't know if it just happens to be the way the car was built and changed, but something is not clicking in this car for Lando like it is for Oscar. I know Oscar says he's just working with it, but Oscar seems to have a lot more pace because he was within DRS range of Lando a lot more than Lando was in DRS range of Max, which I don't think that ever happened throughout the entire race.
Yep.
And then Max is just Max. He's going to find a way to finish 2nd unless the only thing that I would say that could stop Max from getting another podium is if him and his old buddy get into another run-in because we've seen Charles and Max have great fights against each other.
Especially in Bahrain.
Especially at Bahrain. What we have never seen is what Max, Charles, and Lando look like in a fight because Lando and Max seem to fight kind of messy while Charles tries to keep it kind of clean with Max, so I think those three together around the same way. One of those three isn't going to make it out of there. Maybe two of those three is not going to make it out of there. So I do think one of those big drivers is going to have a DNF this race. Also, with so many overtaking possibilities, like we talked about, it's just going to be a race where, look, we're going to put the disclaimer. If you stayed up and you watched this Japan race, kudos to you. We promise you it's going to be a lot better in Bahrain. Bahrain
And
is
it's at a decent time.
Yeah, and it's at a decent time. Bahrain is one of the most fun tracks. You can race it in a game. If you see a race in real life, trust me, it is a great track. You will see a lot of overtaking. We don't want people to be scared off from watching this race because of what happened last weekend in Japan. That was an outlier. It's hopefully not going to be a new repave. I swear if they say they repaved Bahrain, I'm going to think they repaved every racetrack that we're going to be at this year.
We'll see. So we got our podium predictions. We started this last week. We gave our driver of the day predictions. I had predicted correctly, and I predicted Yuki. It's a little unfair because for some reason lately the driver of the day, at least this season so far, has been kind of like a popularity contest, and it being Yuki's home race and a White Bull. There was a lot going around. It was almost writing on the wall that Yuki was going to get driver of the day as long as he finished at a decent spot.
Yeah.
He did that. He got driver of the day, 1 point for Junior.
There you go.
We're going
to keep track of this. We'll figure out something for the
Bahrain. Driver of the day predictions. Before, I'm not going to give mine yet. I'm going to let Mark go first this time.
Damn, I don't put me on the spot.
Yep.
Let's go.
Forza Ferrari.
I want to, but I want to be different. I think I said I'll go with Lewis again.
Lewis?
I'll go Lewis.
Okay.
Driver of the day. You know what? He's done good at this track in the Middle East before. Driver of the day, Ollie Behrman. I think he's going to get driver of the day. He tends to do better at tracks with a lot more overtaking possibilities. That Haas seems to not be a terrible vehicle to drive whenever it's in the right hands. So, yeah, I'll go with Ollie Behrman as driver of the day. I think he's going to shock a lot of people. I would also like to put the caveat that I would not be surprised if Kimi gets driver of the day, but I think that's reserved for his teammate because his teammate always finds a way to be for better, no matter rain, shine, or if the car has smoke coming out the back of it. Somehow he's going to finish fourth.
All right. So with that, I'll say that leads me into my prediction because I came out, I said Kimi's going to get his first podium. If Kimi gets his first podium, he takes driver of the day. Yep. So my prediction is going to be Kimi. I can't say he's going to get P3 and take a podium without saying he gets driver of the day because I don't care who wins the race. Nobody else deserves it after that point. That's my opinion. Obviously, I'm just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, real quick, just because we're running quick on time. Any last minute thoughts going into Bahrain after Japan?
No.
Nothing.
For me, just like I said, we're going to get better racing. I'm excited to see actual passes again this week. Ferrari's going to have to step up. If Ferrari's going to make a step forward to get back into the fight, it has to be this week. Mercedes has been kind of sneakily pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's a team that McLaren is not looking out for the constructors, which they kind of need to be at this point. It's kind of weird. For the constructors, you have McLaren's not overlooking Mercedes, who's in the running now for it. And then for the drivers, I feel like a lot of people are looking at the front three, and it's the same thing. George Russell was sitting right there waiting for some of these guys to get into a wreck or accident for him to move up in the spots. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to watch as we go into more races. Bahrain is Sunday, 10 a.m. our time, so we'll be able to get up, eat some breakfast, drink some coffee, and watch it at a decent time. I got nothing as far as hopefully Max pulls off a win and proves me wrong again because I love being wrong when Max wins.
I can't deal with that Dutch national anthem again.
I love it.
It had been so long since I had heard it.
I missed it. I hadn't heard it since Brazil.
I didn't even watch the podium.
I needed it. It fed my soul, at 2 a.m. when the race was over. But, thanks for watching, everyone. As always, we're around the circuit, Apollo Media's Formula One podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to Apollo HOU. Like the video. Drop in the comments your podium predictions, your driver of the day predictions. We're going to keep score on see who wins at the end of the season, the most driver of the day predictions. And hopefully we can include y'all in that. Until next week, we'll see y'all then. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
We're out.